Okay. Yeah, so it's just the nature of how we communicating and whatnot, and
Yeah. But still, I just love to hear all these ideas and be in this kind of state of absolute awe and gratefulness of it all.
Mhm.
And for me, it always, at least lately, it has so much come back to, even though it's the cliché thing ever of the present moment, and that I have been just loving the Swami Vivekananda's stuff because it's so similar to, I feel like, what I love so much about Terence McKenna's message of self-empowerment and then living 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 fearlessly and just feeling the mystery, knowing the divinity of it all. And I feel like I'm always saying this, but this is the the realest thing right now for me, to be going to meet my parents tomorrow and seeing all the meaning in that and having yeah.
Yeah, no, it's you feel the privilege of it. You really feel privileged, um, and again also the fact that give appreciation for the way that we've been guided and aided and assisted, and that it's also been respecting of the fact that it pushes us sometimes. I mean, the destiny, let's say, or what needs to take place, it pushes you. There's no question about it, because if you don't sink, I mean, if you don't swim, then you sink with it. So it does push you, but at the same time, it how can I say, I think it gives you the space to, and gives you your own time, I'd like to think, for your own healing, for your own
Yeah, it's
pace of
like,
things.
I feel like
Yeah.
it is again a quote that I'm misquoting probably, but it's like it's working. It's like working all the time, but still being at the rest all the time. If
Mm,
that makes
mm,
sense.
mm. Yeah. Something like when I took ayahuasca, and a few minutes in, I felt like I had ingested something that was almost reading me and sort of knew me. It was sort of scanning in a way, and seeing and learning about me, right, and getting information about me. And it was almost like then preparing to, like, well, what does he need? What am I looking for? Type of thing. And that obviously was meeting my intention. But you see, what I'm saying is that even, with just ayahuasca, especially when you have an intention, it's like your intention is being heard. I think it's being, taken into consideration. It's like, in other words, again, like when I'm mentioning about this, the faith of things and the path that we take, is that, and how we're being led to, like, the universal plan, let's put it that way, sort of is reading constantly, I think, where we are holding. It's taking stock of where we are holding from many different levels. I mean, it's obviously very highly intelligent, more intelligent than we can understand. And I think that as well, that it also sometimes there's somewhat of a risk involved. It's not always like a destiny that that is foretold for certain. What I'm saying is that, like, I think like the universal plan works and says, okay, it's up to the individual we're going to, to how they're going to overcome this challenge, how conscious are they going to be of this, how much effort are they going to put in, and if they
Yeah,
don't put it
it's up to
in,
you.
then it's up to you. It's like, okay, that's what people think about psychedelics. The psychedelic will heal you, and it won't heal you. It will show you what needs to be healed, and you've got to do the work to heal. So it's not up to just a psychedelic. It's not like an antibiotic where you take an antibiotic and then it'll sort your problem out for you. It doesn't do that at all. So
Yeah,
again, with the psychedelics,
so real.
Yeah, and to think, this is how it's very hard for, I think, practical minds, I think, and rational minds to try and understand that if there is a universal plan, how on earth does it work with 7 billion people, on individual levels, on each individual level? It's like, this idea that when some people pray to God, or when anyone prays to God, that God is, let's say, in this example, listening. It's like, how do we know that God is not maybe on another call? That
Yeah.
that God can. I mean, I've heard people speak of God as if they're having a conversation with God in the room with them. They're having a conversation when they're going for a walk, in nature with God or
One
a
thing
higher.
for me, but one thing for me is like, why should it be me that the God is
Exactly,
talking? Why should it be me?
exactly.
And
He's a busy guy. He's got a lot going on.
what you said earlier about something, but anyway, for me, it's like for example, all the videos I have done, and when I look back, when I'm doing something that I want or need or feel, and then going back to it now and like seeing that right now I am feeling that when was expressing that, and be the
Mm.
feeling of that I am being answered, but it's not
Mm.
like when I'm saying it, it's not happening right then, but
Mm.
it definitely is. You are being listened to, and feedback is flowing, and that's what I find so amazing about this.
Yeah, that's interesting. What you're saying is
This
reflecting back and. Mm. Yeah, that there is this feedback and how ingenious the feedback is. Like again, how you don't see it at the time, but it's still working its magic. You know, and
yeah, that
also
you are
sometimes.
always experiencing. I mean, again, I always feel bad about saying cliche stuff, but like you are always being given what you need, and even I have not recognized it
Mm,
in, but just with the fact of making the videos, I think right now I can see how it worked because of documenting it, and that's a very powerful thing.
mm, you can reflect back at it.
It gives so much trust and the knowing and feeling to this life for me.
One of the things in the Truman Show was that when Truman is having the conversation with Christoph, he doesn't know who Christoph is. I mean, you've seen the Truman Show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and Christoph is saying to Truman, like, I've been watching you your whole life. I saw when you took your first step, when you lost your first tooth, and it's almost that Christoph had to anticipate how Truman would wish to leave the island and discover new shores, and how, look, they traumatized him into the fear of water to control him. But at the same time, what I'm saying is that Christoph accepts and says that I had to put obstacles in your place to not make it easy for you. Because if I had made it easy for you, then you most likely would have not wanted to leave. And also, well, is that the case? I don't know that. I think my point, what I'm saying is that He said if it was easy for you and you had gotten to and you reached your freedom, but it wasn't much of a fight, right? Then what is actually your freedom? Like, you had to learn your own resources, your own capabilities, right, through your efforts and trials and not giving up. And so you learned the most about yourself through, what the obstacles that are put in front of you. And what I'm saying in that way is that, like, even from birth, even when we come into this existence, that the necessary requirements are put in place for your own growth. The necessary obstacles, adversities are put in place. And, for myself, one of the things that at times I still do have a hard time with is that, like, if I had been raised, let's say, not in a third world country, but maybe more in a first world country, and maybe I was raised in a farm environment or country or small town, something like that. Like, why did I have to be born into a very hustle bustle, violent city type of thing? Okay, now this is just for me. I mean, I could have even said, well, maybe I could have been born into the slums of India, as being a street child type of thing, and was suffering with dysentery or something like that for most of my life, and all these other type of. I mean, you often look for the better option of, well, why couldn't I have born, let's say, to more somebody could say more functional parents, or I don't know, more something or other. You have these wishful thoughts, and you realize that your life at the same time of your living has been a sacrifice for your own personal growth. Like, what I'm saying is that you didn't get these things because of what was the most important thing for you to learn, right? So you see, it also it makes it
your
very, yeah.
experience that made you. That's what like made you strong. That's what made you you. So of course that was the experience you needed to be you basically.
Which is very hard. I mean, like Ram Dass, he says how he loves his wheelchair. I mean, he had a stroke, and and yet he still. I mean, it's just amazing. But like, with people with severe disabilities, and to understand that these are the circumstances that you were given, right, for your own soul development. So be like, well, I mean, I remember when I was at school, I just wished, why couldn't I have been taller? I mean, the girls would have liked me, I suppose, if I was taller, or why couldn't I have, big shoulders or something like that, and I don't know, better looking, or have a sexier sounding voice or something or other. It was just this lack that I came from. It was like, well, it's kind of unfair. When
Yeah,
I look at yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the victim consciousness you were talking about earlier. And when you get out of that and realize, I don't know, the self. That's the word I'm using because I've been into this Indian philosophy, as I say. Then, yeah, then it becomes more free.
Mm.
And yeah, even though it's very difficult to
Yes,
accept.
of course. Well, yeah, like there's a saying: what you gain on the swings, you lose on the slides, which I think means, like, let's say if you go to the park to play and you only have an hour to play, or maybe even say 10 minutes to play. So if you go on the swings, you're not go on the slides. You're not going to have time for that. So what you lose somewhere else, you gain, in another way. And so what I'm saying is that, like, your life. I mean, some people's lives are I feel. I mean, the idea, the story of Jesus, his life as a sacrifice, as a message for the rest of the world. Let's just say, in this example, it was like, well, you see, because this is also what I think, is that it's not that. I spoke about this with Mark as well. It's not that you're just on your own mission here, and it only involves you. Like, you also. Yeah, it's like, if like, let's say with you in the restaurant, it's like, okay, so fine, I work in the kitchen, but then when the maitre d, or whatever it is, one of the waiters aren't around, I've got to sort of back up as a waiter at the same time. So you've got to pull your weight in other areas as well. I mean, and if you don't, it's not going to, you're not going to be a team player, and which is not always a good idea. So what I'm saying is that we need to be team players here. So sometimes like our lives are actually, the sacrifices, of our lives can actually be for a message. And I'm sure the great saints, if anything, I mean, who was it? Discussed the same thing with Mark. That which was it, Plato or Aristotle, or that who drank the poison?
Aristotle, I believe.
It was Aristotle, yeah. So it was like, well, here's this great person. I mean, this is what his life has come to, is drinking this poison, But perhaps that was also, well, whatever it is. But that was a message. So there's metaphors in life that follow down, and stories and narratives. So again, it's not just for our own personal growth, but for the growth of, for humankind, for human consciousness at the same time. So it's multi-layered.
Yeah, I feel like there's a million situations you can be born into, million different ones. Every single one is so vastly different, and you can wish for anything you want, but this is what you have. So
this
is what you have to make. I think the Jesus example you gave, it's like a very extreme like example to show that even what he went through, supposedly, there was the meaning in it for everybody else.
Exactly. But I also think that for people that are blessed with certain type of gifts and talents, let's say, for example, like a Bob Marley, right? I mean, he knew that he was revolutionary, and he knew, I mean, at a very young age, just like some of the greatest artists knew that they had a very, very unique gift, and that if they don't, follow this route, this road, that, I mean, it wouldn't, that they would miss out, I mean, on so much, on changing or influencing the world. And what I'm saying is that maybe some people felt the burden, right, of their talents and their skills, because, then they had to face their own insecurities. Maybe because they became so famous, they couldn't have a normal, sometimes a normal childhood, like Michael Jackson or something like that, or many other actors or whatever it is. But, they couldn't have a normal life. I mean, they'd be a public figure, and they wouldn't know what it means to have sort of privacy or confidentiality, and potentially they wouldn't be able to work on their family. They wouldn't be able to do, like, that's what I think sometimes with Terence McKenna. I'm speaking completely out of line here, but sometimes, like, he often would say how he's not good as a father or as a husband or something like that. It's like an area of his life that he's really not improved on, or he's not very good. I'm just, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not even getting it right, but the fact is that, well, because maybe he couldn't, because his life was so much dedicated to, psychedelics, or, all his work that he was doing, that he felt, well, he couldn't necessarily to learn what it would be like to be a father, and to be present for his children, and whatever it is. I mean, some of the greatest thinkers really have had to sort of move away from their families a lot of the time, or from their own children, in order to pursue their gifts. And so it comes at a cost, but, and then you've got to weigh it up and see, well, what have I been called to do? What has been impressed? What is my job here? I often think, well, what's my purpose? And sometimes so self-serving, but your purpose is not it can't be only self-serving.
Yeah,
it has to involve other people.
Because of the sacrifice you will have to make in order to the purpose.
Yeah. I got into a conversation with Mark the other day, then until we start ending off because it's getting a bit late.
Yeah.
But it's at almost 10 o'clock time. But, like I was speaking to him about incarnation, and was saying that, well, maybe on one level you become a very big philosopher, or, highly influential figure in conscious areas, whatever it might be, a guru, a Sikh, a saint, or something like that, and you don't get to experience, and especially if you die young, like which most of the great minds do and great artists do. They don't seem to. Not everybody, but a lot don't seem to last very long. So it's like, well, they didn't have an opportunity to sort of perfect themselves and try their hand at different areas in life because they were so dedicated to some kind, a certain cause that they were called to do. And so with incarnation, again, you get another chance to sort of try your efforts and fulfill your potential in other areas. So, I mean, even ourselves sitting here, we don't know what maybe we did accomplish in other lives in regards to, skills and gifts and talents and messages and whatever it might be. And that now I've been put into Johannesburg, I was born into the family that I was born into. I was, in these unique circumstances, in order for whatever the object of my destiny might be, or, for what needs to, for which focus, where I need to put my, the experience that I need. And so, I mean, who knows? It's very multi-layered and multifaceted.
This is very relevant for my life, because for myself, I have felt from very young age, and this is one of the most difficult things for me to admit and say, because I don't know, but I have felt this feeling that I have some great destiny, something I will do here, but I'm always like afraid to say it, afraid to admit it to myself. But then again, living my life, I feel like I have lived it in accordance to that greater purpose, and I feel I have missed out on art. Maybe I have missed out on girlfriends, on sex, on all this kind of stuff. But even now, I'm feeling.
Sorry, Annto, you're breaking up. Sorry, you broke up there for a little bit. What did you say?
Okay, I was not sure how long ago I broke, but I was saying maybe I have missed out on women, on sex, and all this kind of stuff. But then again, right now I feel like that I have lived like I have been supposed to live, and maybe in past life I have been some big womanizer, and that's that I have been through that, and that's okay, because right now I'm just at peace with all this, and I'm starting to feel more that I want to pursue this my own own gift, because I feel so blessed.
Yeah. So again, it's
intense feeling I have, which I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but I'm fine with whatever is gonna happen. So that's good.
Yeah, that's I think that's the level of maturity, and what I also like about this what we're talking about here is that it's, I think, you're 27, right?
Yes.
So I mean, like, I've often been under the assumption that we need to be old and grey before we were able to get sort of an inkling or an indication or some kind of confirmation or just something or other, and only in our later years in life that you'd have to go through certain seasons and periods of your life, and certain maturities. But I realized that if maybe it's also to do with the time that we are in, I don't know, but I realized that it can be achieved at very young ages, and very early on in our lives. And there isn't, it doesn't have to be, well, you've got to be a father with 2 children or 3 or something like that, and you've got to experience what marriage is like, and you've got to experience the passing away of your parents or something like that. It's not like that. It just seems that it's up to the individual and the soul growth and where they are holding in their own lives to reach places of more confirmation. So that's what also I like about it. It's not something that only lies within the way further future that is unattainable at this present moment. I think it's always in the present moment, which is also great. And then not only that, but it is also so much more promise, and like you're saying, in potential to still come, which even makes it so much better. So it's not like something that you're just aiming for completely. It's like I've got more of it now than I anticipated to have, and I know that there's still more to come. And that's what's just so cool about it. There isn't some kind of system in a way to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's hard to continue from this.
Yeah, no, that's
I think
cool.
it could be a good time to close it
Sure.
for today.
Let me just press